Hey.
You need it? Thanks so much.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. Appreciate the opportunity. Great opportunity.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
absolutely.
Man. It's a lot of talking. My wife in there, so she's helping with the camera.
Awesome. Family business, huh?
Yeah. I'm trying to do something a little better, still a lot more polished. So we got a lot of GoPros in there that we have to set up when we get to that moment where we need to record. But yeah, man, it's great. Thank you for the opportunity.
No, my pleasure.
To be here, to hear you talk, and to also put a lot of things into perspective, things that I've said in the past that were, by the way, I got to be honest, not 100% right. So I'm here to say that he's going to basically clear the air, okay? When we talk about this particular subject, which is essentially warranty and the repairs and the process, you guys are going to get it from the horse's mouth right here, from him, not from me. So we'll clear the air.
Without the mask.
Without the mask. So when we get to that moment, we'll get to it. So if you want to, we can, I don't know, you tell me, you want to start looking at the speakers, we want to talk about whatever you feel like, or is it Dave, whoever the plan is.
All right. So, again, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Finally, glad to see you in the flesh.
Yes, absolutely.
And I don't know if maybe we met at the show once.
Maybe so.
Not. I don't remember.
Maybe so. Yeah. It's been maybe.
Yeah. I think so. I mean, I remember faces. Don't remember names, but faces I remember. And I've seen you so many times on YouTube.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
So yeah, welcome to our facility. We've been here now for, 8 years almost.
Wow.
Yeah. We started, this building was 20,000 square foot. With time we grew. We took the next space that was next to us became available. So it's another 10,000, altogether 30,000 square foot. This place was kind of open. We built our music room here, which you'll get to see in a second. So entrance, you can see some of the print magazines, some of the creation that we've done over the years. This is where engineer sits. I sit over there. Messy room, so the door is closed. And yeah, so any questions you guys have about what you see here?
Yeah, so absolutely. First thing I want to make sure you guys see is Dave mentioned this subwoofer to me, which is a replacement for the Q series subwoofer.
Yes,
correct?
yes.
So I've never heard about this. This is new to me.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about this one.
This is the new Titan 15. It's the replacement for the Q 15. It's a substantial upgrade on all account. Bigger everything. I mean, the 15 is still a 15, but much greater travel, greater power handling. It's quite a bit bigger enclosure as well. And that's going to take the place of the Q 15. It's actually moving as much air as the Q 18 used to move. So
this is a 15-inch driver.
That's a 15-inch driver.
And then
yes.
on the rear.
Yeah, same thing.
See on the rear.
Opposite drivers that are.
Now, was the Q series the same?
Yes,
Okay.
same. This is how you should build the subwoofers.
Wow.
That's where you get the most effective and least amount of pressure built inside, and the drivers are working.
This is great. All metal, of course. I mean,
Yes,
this aluminum
it's all
is just
aluminum.
insane. How much power?
This is on 110 it's 3200. On 220, if you have, that's 6400.
Wow.
And that's a new DSP system. We also now have an LCD here on the back, although you still set it up through a computer.
Right.
But yeah, it's an upgrade. Quite an
Crazy.
upgrade.
What does it weigh?
Oh boy.
That's what people need to know. I want to know.
It weighs a lot. You don't want to pick it up. I don't remember right on top of my head, but I think 350 pounds at least, if not more.
Wow.
Yeah, it's all online. So
It's now we know, guys.
it's a monster. Yeah.
I haven't seen anything like it. It's actually the first time I see a Magico sub. Period.
Yeah.
Because
this is.
I know we had a brief conversation about the value of adding subs into any system, and by the way, it's not just bass, okay? He basically articulated the fact that it's to add more layering in the presentation. There's more things happening than just low registers. The body, everything. And so I'm curious to know what one of these things would do if I added it to my Magico S7 to see how everything changes.
Well, really the main reason to use a sub is to help mitigate the room mode. So not only that you're dealing with a lower register, you're actually helping the upper kind of a bass register that causes room mode, because you have two speakers in one location. It doesn't matter what kind of room you will have room mode. By moving the trajectory of the bass to other places while using the sub, you kind of mitigate those. So that's really the biggest benefit of having a sub. You get overall below 100 hertz a much smoother bass response in a room, and you also get the benefit of dealing with the low register, although with most of our speakers that's not really necessary, because they, as you know, they go quite low. They
go quite low. Let me tell you, there's going to be an interview you guys will see with a dealer that showed up at my home 2 days ago, and his mouth just dropped when he heard the low registers on the S7. It was phenomenal. So I agree with that in what he's saying.
So this is not necessarily going to give you more lows, although it will, but anywhere below 25 hertz, it's already, that's angel territory.
Correct.
In our room, and you'll hear it soon, this thing goes down to 18 hertz. So that area is there, but the more important part of it is really smoothing out the room mode, and the subs will help you do that. And the more subs you have, the better, because you're attacking those issues from all different areas in the room.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So, A5s.
A5.
This has been, I'm going to say, a success. It's hard to find a speaker for this price point that can bring the level of performance, resolution, and honesty, because that's the truth. I mean, we had a conversation about the fact that your speakers are very colorless, and they're nothing. It's just about the facts, right? And others, of course, every manufacturer has a different design and way of approaching things. But you're about, I want them to have absolutely no color. I want to just push out what you're putting in them. And so this...
Much easier said than done, by the way.
Much
easier said than done. Yes. Bigger brothers than the A3s. It was also built in a time where we were already working with newer technologies that were developed for the M9, i.e. the aluminum honeycomb diaphragms. And this is really, other than the M9, the only speaker at the moment that uses this technology.
Really?
Yes. So even though the drivers, of course, are built to a lesser standard than an M9, they are using the same technology for the membrane. Wow. So these cones are the most pistonic cone that I'm aware of that exists today for these size of drivers. You hear it on the A5. So the A5, yes, it's a bigger A3, but it also has things that are ahead of just about anything else that we or anybody else do in terms of pistonic motion.
So it's not just, so the A5 is not necessarily just a bigger A3. It's actually better technology that comes. It's a watered-down technology from your M9. Yes, there's a lot of that in here.
It's definitely an advanced stage than the A3. Again, still, it doesn't build to the same investment as the S series is built, or of course the M, but it has some points that none of these other speakers have.
Wow.
And this is something that I always try to do, is I try to insert something special in any particular model. So, and so also, by the way, I forgot, the most important part is it's the first 5-inch mid-range, pure mid-range.
Oh, really?
We have used, yes. You can see this is a smaller mid-range than
we have in
any other speakers we built.
Right there.
and that's also a big deal.
What is the advantage from the 5? How big is the mid-range on that one?
This one is 6-inch.
Okay.
S7 is 6 inches. It was typically a 6-inch
Okay.
Mid-range. 5-inch mid-range have their advantages. They cannot be used everywhere, so
Okay.
you can use them in certain situations. But it's a more appropriate dispersion pattern to deal with the mid-range frequencies. So you get kind of a more smoother, more linear dispersion pattern for a driver from a driver like that. It cannot work in any situation. For instance, it needs to blend with the drivers that are not any bigger than 9-inch. So this is kind of pushing it. So for instance, you cannot have that on the S7 because it's not going to mate with a 10-inch. So you have to go to a 6-inch. 6-inch also has better power handling. Not quite with this, so you can't cross it over that low. So it's got its advantages and some restriction. But in a design where it can be used, it's hard to beat mid-range quality.
Right.
And you get this in the A5.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Only the A5 has the 5-inch.
For now, only
Only the A5.
Yes,
Got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to
M6.
the M6. So I've had this. You've seen this on my channel. I feel pretty disappointed, I would say, because I didn't give the speaker the chance that it really deserved. Didn't have the electronics, didn't have the supporting cast that this speaker deserves. But I've been on the record, and I'll say it again, this is probably, in my opinion, the best looking loudspeaker I've ever seen.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. I appreciate that.
I look at this speaker, and very few other speakers come close to. First of all, it's timeless.
Yes.
I feel like you could be in the year 2035, and it'll still look like a speaker that just was recently released. And I can't say that about many other speaker brands out there. Okay. I was completely blown away with the transparency, the beautiful presentation of the M series. It's just different than the S series, different than the A series. I find it, and I think it has to do as well with the design and has no edges, right?
Yep.
You articulated that before.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about what makes the M different than the S and the A series.
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to talk about here, a lot to unpack. But early on, when I started to design loudspeaker, one of the first thing that I identified is an issue is driver coupling. So if you ever had a speaker that is not built from aluminum, you know that what holds the drivers, the bolts that are screwed into the faceplate, they get loose over time. Sometimes after a couple hours of playing, you have to go and you need to kind of tighten them up, and then it sounds better, it sounds clearer. So the whole aspect of driver coupling is a huge ordeal because a driver is transferring energy. It's taking electrical energy and passing it into physical energy. And the better the coupling, the less losses you have while doing the transfer. With an MDF baffle, which is typically what most speakers are built from, or any type of wood, there's only so much torque you can put on the bolts that are actually holding the drivers. They get loose, you tighten them up, sometimes you strip them, and then forget it. You have no coupling at all.
Correct, yeah.
And a lot of quality goes to waste on that juncture. So I was trying to kind of come up with a solution to that. And of course, bolting to an aluminum or any metal plate is a good start. At least the coupling is solid. So once you do that, you have the entire faceplate as the driver frame, basically. Now that whole structure has to be attached to something. You have the actual body of the speakers. What is it built from? If it's built from MDF, then you're going to have the same problem. Right. You're attaching now a bigger frame to a compromised structures that will never have good coupling. So this is, and that started with the Mini. We can talk about that. This what started the whole idea of taking the aluminum structure, the front structure, build an aluminum spine at the back, and connect the two with rods that are kind of squeezing the actual skin, the actual body of the speaker. So now you don't have any hardware between the aluminum structures and the actual body of the speakers. They're completely independent from one another.
Right.
The coupling is done through tension through those rods. So I developed that for the Mini. We can talk about that. I mean, we're kind of starting from the back, but
yes,
that's okay. But this is a big Mini. This is what you see here. You have an aluminum front, top and bottom, aluminum spine, and the rods that are connecting them. But now they are compressed against a very stiff yet critically damp carbon body. So this is something that all the M series have. You get the best of all world. You get very stiff and sound coupling system. The drivers are not moving they're not doing anything other than what they're supposed to do, which is moving the cones. You have an excellent structures that is designed to really mitigate vibration, and that's a whole different story. There is a setup of constraint layer damping mechanism here. We have a front plate. We have a second plate. There is a layer of elastomer that is designed to be pressed against these two surfaces and eliminate vibration. So there's a lot that goes into something like that, a lot more than what you see here. Beyond that also, with the M6, the same as with the M2, the structure is completely devoid of any corners.
Right,
so
I saw that,
you don't have any diffraction happening anywhere. Diffraction are very destructive to sound propagation.
Okay.
Basically, every time you have a corner, and the sound kind of goes around it, hit it, some of the frequencies comes back. Basically, it's a reflector. Think about it this way.
Interesting. Okay.
So some of the frequencies come back, and now they're out of phase. So they are eliminating some of the frequencies that are actually trying to get out. It's very bad for the sound. Every time you see a square speakers, you get these kind of effects. Some of these big behemoth with all these boxes and all these structures that are holding them together creates tremendous amount of diffraction. And that's just bad for the sound. You can actually measure it. You can see those things in frequency response. Yeah, because it's out of phase information. Frequencies that are canceling the propagation of the original intent. So you're not really hearing everything the driver is trying to give you.
Right.
Every time you get this cancellation that comes from diffraction, these are interference. This is things that are actually hurting the dispersion. They're telling your brain that something is not quite right. The information that you're getting on axis doesn't smoothly match the information you're getting off axis. And your brain is like, okay, something is playing here in front of me. The less of that you have, the better the disappearing act is. And a better soundstage, depth, imaging, etc. And overall, puts you closer to the experience of the recording.
The feeling of the high frequency on the M, wouldn't say it is more relaxed, but I can't think of another term. And what that does is it feels more refined. It feels as if smoother. It's prettier. It's
a better tweeter.
It's a better tweeter.
That's the end of it.
Yeah.
And because it's better, meaning it starts with the diaphragm. It's steeper radius, which gives you better dispersion. It's also has better power handling. It's a much more invested motor system. So you have a much better control on the breakup due to other elements that are designed into it. So what we really achieve with that is a much lower sense of mechanical noise. A lot of the things you hear about tweeters, and some people actually confuse that for not having highs or not hearing air. There is no air to hear. Mm-hmm. When you hear air in a loudspeaker, it's either EQ'd, you're getting too much high frequencies,
okay,
or you're actually hearing the mechanical noise of the tweeter working.
Really? That's
yes,
interesting.
think about it. You walk into a hall and suddenly it's like, oh, I hear the air in the hall. That does not exist, definitely doesn't pass in a recording. This whole notion of air is an artifact. People get used to it, people like it. It's also on vinyl, you know, the cartridge goes up and down. It releases in and out phase information. Yeah. The first thing you think is, oh, I'm in a space. No, you're not. It's an artifact of vinyl, of a cartridge going up and down.
Oh, okay.
People like that. I like it because it gives you the sense that you are in a space.
It's not true.
It's not real.
It's not real.
It's not.
So you're hearing it.
You're hearing it. Yes.
You're hearing it from him.
Yes.
Air. And what the perception is and what the reality is about this entire narrative about air when it comes to tweeter. But he's saying it's not really
And in
real.
fact, you can test it. So if you think that air is where? 8K, 10K, 12K, you use Roon, go to the EQ setup.
Yeah.
Take a 12K, 10K point, boost the hell out of it, see if you're hearing more air. You should, right? But
yeah. It's not real.
No.
It's all
artificial.
artificial.
Hear it. It's not going to do anything.
So it's an artificial enhancement.
Exactly.
Essentially.
As the better the tweeter gets, the less of that noise you're hearing.
Oh, wow.
So in the beginning, it's like, what the hell? What is this? Where's my highs? And that actually happened to me with the Mpro when we finished to design that tweeter. I mean, this is already two versions above that, but the same concept with the new diaphragm. I sat down, I mean, we worked on this for 4 years. I sat down, I pushed a button, and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Where are my highs? I mean, everything was there, but it's like, but what is this? I measure, make sure everything is working. Everything is working perfectly. But the lack of what we are so used to, that mechanical noise that tweeters make, that whistling that we perceive as air, was gone.
Gotcha.
It took a bit time to get used to it, but now, when you hear something else, it's like, ooh, what is this?
Interesting. Okay, let's go over here to see what we got.
So this is a little museum that we have.
Beautiful.
Some of the products let's start in the beginning.
Let's start beginning of time.
Yeah. So this is the Mini. This is the first speakers that we commercially started to produce. This is an interesting story, the speaker. And yes, I like to tell it because it's a good story. I think you can edit it off if you want later on. But I was building speakers as a hobby. It started as a hobby. I've been doing this for 40 years. So, and you know, friends would hear it, and I started to build speakers for other friends, then people that knew people. And I found myself in a position where I built a couple speakers for Jeff Rowland.
Interesting.
Yes,
really?
Yes.
Jeff Rowland.
This is before Magico became what it is today.
Wow.
This is me in my garage building speakers. And Jeff Rowland told his Hong Kong distributor that there is this crazy guy in Auckland that builds great speakers, and maybe he can build you something. Just talk to him. So I get a phone call from a distributor in Hong Kong, Robert Ma, is a big distributor, and he said to me, "Hey, I heard you're doing some interesting stuff. Let me tell you, here in Hong Kong, we have an issue. We have very small apartments. We love two-ways, but all the two-ways that we have ugly stands, and they're not that pretty. And it's not a question of money. We have all the money in the world. Can you build me the ultimate two-way loudspeakers with a dedicated stand that I'd be proud owning and having in my living room? With all the performance I can expect, and don't worry about the money. The money is not an issue." I went to work and I built the Mini. It took a year to to finish that thing.
A year, okay.
Yes, of course. By then I knew how to do it.
When was it released? When was it released?
This was 2004, I believe.
So this is your beginning.
Yes, this is the commercial beginning.
Right.
There were other things before that. I built the Ultimate, for instance, before. I built the references. There's many other speakers I built before that, but that was one-off. This was the first speakers that I actually built for a distributor.
Got it.
But here's the story. So I finished the speakers. I call Robert Ma. I tell him it's ready. Where should I send it? And he's like, okay, you'll send it here. And how much is it going to cost me? And I came up. I mean, the MSRP back then was $22,000.
Okay.
And Robert Ma was like, $22,000? Are you crazy? That's way too much. We cannot sell a speaker that high. And I'm like, Robert, you told me money's not the issue.
Yeah.
You got, I think it's all together with the stand. It's like it's almost 300 pounds of a two-way.
Wow.
Oh yeah, this is very, very heavy. I think maybe I'm wrong, maybe 250, but it's a hefty design here. Of course, the woodwork. I mean, it cost me a fortune, a lot more than $22,000 to build this. And he's like, no, we can't. It has to be 16,000. That's the number. And I'm like, I don't think so. I was very upset. I hung up the phone. I didn't realize that this was just his way to negotiating price.
Oh.
But to me, that was like, forget it.
Not happening. Yeah.
Not happening. I was super upset. I had this wonderful speakers. Friends heard it and said to me, why don't you just take it to the CES? I mean, you have the speaker. You have nothing to lose. Rent a room, bring it over, see what happens.
See what happens, yeah.
And the rest is history.
People loved it.
It was a big success.
Big success, and the orders started rolling in.
In fact, the late HP that came to Harry Pearson from TAS, that came to that year CES, said in his report that if there was a reason to come to the show, this was it.
Wow.
Yes, and yes, the rest is history. So distributors showed up, they saw it, and I signed up quite a few dealers and distributors at that show, all by myself, building those in my garage. And it's all because of basically a mistake, really.
A mistake.
Yeah.
Now, is this aluminum too here, or is this?
This is aluminum. This is how I came up with this whole idea of. Remember, I told you faceplate.
Yes.
From aluminum. Drivers are attached to it, and a spine in the back.
Right.
With rods that are going.
Got it.
Through it.
Got it.
And the encapsulation of the volume, crossover, etc. The skin, the body of the speaker is made out of birch ply, which is also extremely stiff and quite damped. This is all aluminum as well.
Is this your largest bookshelf speaker ever? Or do you have a current product that is this big?
It's this big, but it doesn't look as big. It's the same.
Okay.
It's the same, pretty much the same real estate as an A1.
Okay.
But the walls here are extremely thick, almost 2 inches across. So the speaker is in a way much bigger than it needs to be. Physically, it's the biggest one.
And then these followed.
Yes,
This is the natural journey and what came.
Yes.
I've seen these online. These are
Here's the M5.
M5s,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But
of course, the goal was to move away from wood altogether.
Sure.
Before I've built the Mini, I've already built a fully aluminum. I mean, we're talking about early 90s. I already built a full 3-way, full-range loudspeakers from aluminum to enclosure, quite heavy, quite big. So I knew that this is where I wanted to go. And somewhere around this time, we purchased a machine shop and started building the speakers from completely aluminum. And this is where you see here. This was the first attempt, the Q5.
Q5, a speaker that you guys need to know is been on my short list. I am curious to hear a Q series speaker.
Yeah.
Coming from the S series and of course M3, M6, the Q series is the only line that I haven't spent time with. I am absolutely eager to get my hands on a Q. Now, of course, me, if I don't go big, I go home. So for me, it would be more like a Q7. Now, 750 pounds per speaker, probably 2,000 pounds crated, something like that. It's going to take, you know, a team of 4 of me to be able to get a speaker that big in my room. So now the Q5s and Q7s and all of that, would that be before the M series was born?
Yes.
Would this be considered your reference line?
Yes,
at that point in time,
that
right?
was our reference line. These are very special speakers. This little thing that you see here is an actual 4-way loudspeakers. It's built like a space shuttle, you could see.
It is absolutely phenomenal. Like it really, this is one of those speakers, is just because of all the engineering, guys, and what I'm seeing here, I just want to own it. I want to hear it. I want to play with it, because it seems like a lot went into this.
Yeah.
I can't, you probably know off the top of your head how many bolts we have probably in total. Who knows? I'm sure.
I think we wrote it down somewhere. I think it was something like 800 volts.
800 volts.
Something like
S7.
that. That's what you have
Look
without
at,
the...
that's, wow. What is it, a quarter of an inch?
without the cover.
How thick is the aluminum? Wow.
That's half-inch, yeah.
Half-inch?
That's half-inch, yes.
Half-inch.
And look at this extrusion. I mean, this is a miracle when you see these things being crunched. I mean, it's crunched.
Look at the half.
21-inch billet. That's all one piece. It's like a cookie cutter, and you push a billet through it, and it comes the other side that big. It's a very, very big extrusion. There's only a couple of companies in the United States that can actually do that.
Wow. And this is all done in-house or outsourced?
No. We don't do the extrusions out. No way. Yeah.
No, that's okay.
This is a whole different specialty.
It's,
Look at the copper gaskets.
Okay.
Formula Ones. This makes also a big difference.
now, do those make a difference? The gaskets. What is the main?
Absolutely. I mean, you want to have good coupling. So
Okay.
good coupling is you want to be able to have a sound coupling, but you also want to introduce some sort of damping into the actual structure, so nothing is rattling. And when both materials are very stiff and hard, it's difficult to achieve that. So you can do it with just a rubber gasket, but rubber gasket will strip you a bit of energy. You're going to lose a bit of energy there. Copper gasket will give you the best of both worlds, because it's softer than aluminum, yet it's stiff enough not to create minimum losses. That's why they use copper gasket on Formula One engines, for instance.
Oh, wow.
That's the reason.
See, I didn't know that.
And also, of course, dealing with heat, but that's less of an issue here.
So these are the rest of the lineup.
This is just a progression. You can see this is the first S3, so you can see it's a little bit kind of a more simple design. This is the Mark II, so we already kind of curved the top.
I see that now.
This is a big difference as well. I mean, you get less standing wave between
I see that.
between the ceiling and the speaker. Less diffraction, like we talked about. You have more diffraction on the design like this, less diffraction on the design like this. Your S7 is still built.
It's built
like
around that.
Yes. We never did a Mark II because, in a way, I mean, it already has the new tweeters. I mean, there's not much to do that other than really the top as a Mark II, which is not enough for a Mark II speaker. So the S7 is like a 1.5. It's somewhere in between.
Mpros?
These are the Mpros, yeah. This is what led to the
creation of the M6?
The M6 and the entire M series.
I'm seeing something that's immediately just basically standing out. The back of that. I didn't see any other Magico speaker with
all these binding posts.
No.
Yeah, that's because it's a prototype.
Oh, okay, but the actual one just did have a single set.
Yeah,
okay, interesting.
Set. We don't do the by wiring or by amping unless we know that the speaker would be used like that. So I mean, we used to do it with the Q7. We won't go through all this length and then give you those two cheesy jumpers between the binding
I've
posts.
seen that.
Not going to happen.
I've seen that a lot.
Unless I know that you're going to do that.
Right.
Like with the M9, you have no choice.
Yes.
So that's where you're going to get two binding posts.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And all of these now are the awards. everything.
That's part of it. Yeah,
If
we
you could
no
take a
longer
look at
have enough closets for all of them.
it's just some of the awards
Yeah.
here for everything that
Yeah.
you have seen here. I mean, it's just incredible to see the wall of fame here.
Yeah.
So you guys have an understanding of how well received a lot of these speakers have been throughout the world.
Let's just kind of quickly tour. This is our QC area. This is where everything that comes in here, drivers, etc., everything that we receive before we even start working on it goes through a QC system here.